Rokuro is a snotty childish loser with no friends who is always mocked by all the other students in his class because he can't get a girlfriend. No matter how hard he tries, they always seem to reject him. But after saving a beautiful overpowered exorcist girl who fell from the skies into the bustling city of Japan, he discovers he is the one destined to be the god of all exorcists and shows everyone his true powers, shocking everyone at his school. It is the year 2016 and the specific white-haired, blue-eyed jujutsu sorcerer won't be popular for another 4 years. The world is full of people with anxiety, depression, and peasantry, and all these nice things gather in an alternative universe called Magano and give birth to evil spirits called impurities. These impurities often feed on these negative emotions and grow stronger until they become able to hunt people in the real world. To fight them off, the humans have a group of special people called exorcists. Rokuro is one such exorcist who gave up on being the protagonist of his world and started looking for a girlfriend like the simp he is. One day, he proposes to a girl, but she turns him down by telling him to first look at himself in the mirror and apologize to it for making it reflect his ugly face. Hearing this, he starts to cry and runs away, only to crash into his childhood friend, Mayura, who tells him to stop being a simp. Just then, they see a group of bullies gaming up on a little kid and Rokuro jumps in to save him. But unfortunately for him, he trips over himself and ends up falling forward into a pole and embarrassing himself in front of everyone. Meanwhile, a young girl who's the next head of the Adashino house, named Benio, rides in a train back from school. Suddenly the lights inside the train go out and monster-like impurities start attacking from outside. Her spirit whispers in her ear that if they don't act right now, there would be casualties. Hearing this, she stands up and uses a paper charm to summon the gate to the Magano, and starts dealing with the cannon fodder spirits. On the other hand, we see an old geezer at Rokuro's dormitory using his powers on a spoon to locate the impurities at the train station. They all live in the Seika dormitory, which is one of the many places that houses cadets training to become full-fledged exorcists. The old man is named Zenkichi, and after learning about the impurities attack, he tells cadets Ryogo, Atsushi, and Shinosuke to prepare for the attack. They all gear up and tell Rokuro to join them as well, but he says that he doesn't want to be an exorcist anymore and simply runs away. Ryogo and the others leave him behind, and Atsushi complains how the old man still pampers Rokuro like a kid and is spoiling him. But Ryogo cuts in and explains that Rokuro is actually Sasuke Uchiha of this anime, and that he is the only survivor of the tragic Hinatsuki dormitory incident that happened 2 years ago. Meanwhile, Benio is busy wiping the floor with all the attacking impurities. She uses her fast and flexible moves and kills them all, but in the end feels too weak to move and ends up falling from the sky once the battle is over. As she falls down, the gate to the real world opens beneath her and she finds herself headed straight for the river beneath the bridge. Luckily, Rokuro happens to be sulking by the same bridge and he sees her falling down. He jumps and tries to grab her but forgets that he can't fly in this anime, and they both end up falling down. After that, they both swim to the river bank and Rokuro, being the simp he is, gets lost in her beauty. Just then, the girl takes out a small map and tells him that she wants to go there. It looks like some place near the Narukami station, so he decides to escort her himself. On their way, the girl points at a candy shop and says that she is hungry but doesn't have any money. Rokuro immediately takes his wallet out and tells her to get some herself, and she ends up using all his money at once on some ohagi and hisses at him when he tries to get one for himself. After that, they continue walking to find the place where Benio wants to go. On their way, they see a couple of kids suddenly vanishing into thin air. Benio realizes that it must be the doing of an impurity and opens up a gate to Magano, and ends up sucking Rokuro in as well. Once inside, Benio saves the kids by cutting the monster's head, but then she gets surrounded by a bunch of them. She takes out her paper charms and activates her body enhancement ability, which gives her massive stats boost, allowing her to cut through all of them in a blink of an eye. After that, she goes to the kid and heals her with another charm, but then a massive spider-like monster appears and threatens them. Benio attacks it, but the monster slaps her back into the ground like a fly. She then gives a gate charm to Rokuro and tells him to get out of there with the children while she holds the monster back. Rokuro tells her that she won't be able to defeat it and should run with them, but she says that she is strong and will defeat all the impurities in this world. With that, she jumps back into the fight while Rokuro starts thinking back on his past. While he goes through his flashback story, Benio gets her ass kicked and used as a mop to clean Magano's floor by the huge monster. When all hope is lost, Rokuro steps forward and decides to do some exorcism after all. He tells Benio that she got her ass kicked too fast for someone claiming to be strong enough to defeat all impurities, and then takes out his unique black charm and activates his abilities, which turn his arm into that of a strong demon. He then points his fingers at the monster and punches it like Saitama, turning it into a bunch of nothingness with a single hit, surprising Benio with his strength. Benio confronts him and says that she hasn't seen a power like this, but Rokuro tells her that it's a curse and not some power to be proud of. Meanwhile, we see a white-haired maniac look into fire as it prophesies about Rokuro and Benio being the twin star exorcists. Back in Magano, Rokuro tells Benio to not tell anyone about him fighting today. He says that he doesn't want to be an exorcist anymore, and this makes her really mad. She steps on his foot before returning them all to the real world and then walks away thinking how she doesn't like him. On the other hand, Rokyuro remembers that he forgot his bag in the river and goes back to retrieve it before finally heading back to the dormitory. Once he's back, he notices the old man and everyone else surrounding Benio and treating her like some princess. He asks them what she was doing there and the old man replies that she will be staying at their dormitory as well, so he should be nice to her. Rokyuro starts talking back, but Benio's familiar summons itself and jumps at his face for talking bad about its master. It introduces itself as Kanako and says that anyone who messes with Benio will have to face it first. Rokyuro gets annoyed and just walks back to his room. The next morning, Benio wakes up at 5 AM and goes into Rokyuro's room to wake him up. She tells him that she wants them to have a friendly sparring match as she wants to see who is the better exorcist. Rokyuro says that he doesn't care and that he doesn't want to become an exorcist anyways. Just then, Ryogo announces that they have located another impurities attack and would be going out to deal with them. Rokyuro kicks Benio out of his room and says that he is never going back into Magano ever again and shuts the door. Benio thinks about it for a moment and then tells Ryogo that she will help them on the mission as well. As soon as they arrive in Magano, Benio uses her spells and starts attacking the giant frog monster alone. She makes quick work of it while thinking about Rokyuro and his decision to not become an exorcist despite being so strong. After the battle, Ryogo asks Benio if Rokyuro fought impurities the other day. On their way back, he explains that he is Rokyuro's childhood friend and moved to Seika dorm 5 years ago. Rokyuro moved there 3 years after him, but when they met again, he had already given up on being an exorcist. He then says that maybe Benio can change him back to how he was because he knows how strong and talented he is. He used to talk about becoming the strongest exorcist and defeating all impurities, and that was when he looked the happiest back then. Hearing this, Benio compares it to how she wants to do the same things he used to say and wonders what happened to him to change like that. Later that day, Rokyuro accidentally runs into Benio taking a bath and then runs away from her as she tries to slice him in half with a sword. As he runs out, he crashes into the dumb-looking white-haired guy who turns out to be the head of all exorcists, Arima. They ask him why he was walking around like a naked homeless person, and he says that he ended up meeting a girl on his way there who happened to have a gangsta boyfriend who kicked his ass and took all his belongings as well. He then says that he is there to make a special announcement and tells the old geezer to gather all the leaders of exorcists at the Hall of 5 Mirrors. The hall turns out to be an underground gathering place beneath the local shrine, and once they are all there, Arima announces that he received an oracle that Miko will be born soon. Miko is the title of a sorcerer who will have infinite power and is fated to purify the whole world of all impurities with their exceptional exorcism skills. He then says that they have 2 kids who have the potential to become Miko and calls Benio and Rokyuro up to the stage. He then tells them both to fight as if they wanted to kill each other and that the winner would get the title. Rokyuro tells him to stop making stuff up and that he doesn't want to be an exorcist in the first place, but Benio sees this as an opportunity to fight him seriously and starts the duel. In the start, Rokyuro lets her push him around, but Arima starts taunting him, saying how his friends died because they were weak, but he isn't, so he should claim what is rightfully his. The taint gets to him as he remembers his past and activates his ability and starts beating Benio back. It surprises everyone as they don't expect some nameless kid like Rokyuro pushing the prodigy kid. Benio back. Rokyuro tries to calm down and tells her to just stop all this, but Benio thinks back on her parents' funeral and unleashes her hidden power before overwhelming Rokyuro with high-speed attacks. Rokyuro decides to get a bit serious as well and counters her, and it looks like they will both hit each other with their final attacks. But Arima uses a special paper charm that dispels both their enchantments, and Benio ends up falling over Rokyuro without much harm. Arima then walks up to them and apologizes to Rokyuro for taunting him like that, even though he didn't mean any of those things. He says that he did it to show everyone there just how strong Rokyuro really was, and then turns to them and reveals that these 2 kids are the twin star exorcists according to the oracle. Rokyuro and the other young exorcists wonder what that means, and Arima explains that the Miko is the ultimate exorcist, and the pair who will give birth to it are called the twin star exorcists, meaning they will both marry and have a baby together, which makes them both scream in shock. Later that night, Rokyuro dreams about living a happy life with Benio by his side, but scratches it as an absurd idea before going down to take his breakfast. There he meets Benio and Atsushi alongside Shinosuke, who tell them that they should spend more time together to strengthen their bond, but Benio walks out angrily, saying she didn't become an exorcist to play house, and especially not with a man who doesn't even have the resolve to become an exorcist, and walks out. Ryogo and the others say that they are going out to fight some impurities, so Rokyuro should Benio at school as it is her first day there. After that, Rokyuro tries to keep his distance from Benio all day while his friend Mayuri tries to befriend Benio and fails miserably. After lunch break, Benio senses a huge impurity from where Ryogo and the others went to fight and decides to go help them, while Rokyuro sulks over his past and wonders how his power is a curse. Mayuri notices that and cheers him up by taking him to an amusement park. They talk about his mood and worries about becoming an exorcist again, but then decide to enjoy the day to take a break from all those things. Meanwhile, Benio struggles against one of the giant impurities on the battlefield, which manages to damage a roller coaster track in the real world. Rokuro notices that and sees the ride headed towards the broken rails with a couple of children in it. He immediately runs and climbs up the tracks to help them and manage to save their lives. Mayuri later compliments him for always helping others and that she believes he has what it takes to be a really strong person. Rokuro thanks her for trying to cheer him up and says that he's glad to have her as a friend before heading back to the dorm. There, they meet Ryogo and the others coming back from their fight and confirm that their fight went well. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Arima sits down with the 12 guardians known as the strongest exorcists of the era. They talk about the twin star exorcists, and one of them, named Ikaruga, stands up and says that he's still not convinced whether Rokuro is worthy of the title or not. Later that night, Ryogo sits down with Benio and talks to her about Rokuro's past and why he insists on not becoming an exorcist anymore. He seems to suffer from PTSD, but Ryogo thinks that Benio can change him back to how he was because he knows about Rokuro's potential. The next day, Rokuro goes out for a walk to think about everything Ryogo said to Benio last night, and remembers how he considers him his brother. On the other hand, Ryogo, Atsushi, and Shinosuke go out on a mission to purify a house that made 11 people vanish in 1 month. They believe it to be the work of strong impurities and decide to clean the place, but as soon as they walk in, they find themselves surrounded, and Ryogo fails to make it out of Magano as he gets surrounded by impurities and his gate charms run out. Back at the dormitory, Atsushi and Shinosuke tell Rokuro about the situation and he goes to ask Benio for her help. After that, they rush to Magano and wipe the floor with all the impurities like the opus duo that they are. They save Ryogo, who looks like a beat-up ragdoll at this point, and Rokuro apologizes to him for being late. After that, he has Atsushi and Shinosuke take Ryogo back while he stays behind to thank Benio for her help. She tells him that he is usually a lame idiot who doesn't do anything helpful, but when it comes to fighting he's actually pretty cool. And we see their bond getting a tiny bit stronger. Back at the 12 Guardians meeting Arima is hosting in Kyoto, he tells Ikaruga to go investigate the unusual amount of impurities appearing in Narukami, and he can pay the twin star exorcists a visit as well if he wants. Meanwhile, Rokuro goes to check up on Ryogo, who is recovering from his injuries in the hospital. After talking to him, he goes back to the dorm where everyone is making paper talismans. Everyone compliments Benio's skills while apologizing to the paper Rokuro was writing on for his utterly garbage handwriting. Just then, they receive a signal about an impurity attack at a school nearby. They all go to check it out, and it turns out a bunch of kids vanished into thin air while playing football. They immediately go to Magano and see the kids being attacked by a massive crowd of monsters. Rokuro jumps in and saves a kid from turning into a not-so-happy meal, while Benio and the others go on a rampage and destroy a bunch of other monsters. But then they start getting overwhelmed by their numbers, and Rokuro starts getting flashbacks of his old friends dying in the Heinatsuki dormitory incident. Seeing this, one of the monsters grabs him off guard and decides to eat him up, but then gets shot by an energy beam-like kick from the side. With that, Ikaruga makes his appearance on the battlefield and unleashes the power of his special familiar, and its sword releasing a huge amount of flame power that incinerates all the monsters around him. The 12 Guardians are the strongest exorcists who inherited the names and powers of Abe no Seime's familiars, who is known as the strongest exorcist in history. Ikaruga seems unimpressed by Rokuro's lazy performance and calls him weak. Just then, one of the surviving monsters eats a couple other impurities besides it and grows stronger. It then starts rushing towards them, but Rokuro goes on to one-punch it to hell. Benio defends him and says that Rokuro might be a lousy ass, but he is a strong exorcist regardless. Just then, Ikaruga notices the presence of someone else in the Magano besides them, but then he receives a call from Arima, who calls him back to Kyoto. Ikaruga goes back, but it turns out that Arima was just playing around and wanted to know his opinion about Rokuro after seeing his power. Ikaruga says that Narukami still has a lot of impurities, and he's concerned about the presence he felt earlier, so he will be going back, but Arima stops him and tells him to give the kids some time to grow after seeing someone young like him who is so strong. After this interaction, both Benio and Rokuro feel inspired to train and grow stronger, as Ikaruga becomes one of the 12 Guardians when he was the same age as them. The next day, as Ryogo-D and the others plan their next mission, Rokuro asks if he can join as well, and this makes them all really happy. Ryogo asks Benio to stay behind to give Rokuro a chance to fight some impurities, as he's getting back into this exorcism business after quite some time. She agrees and decides to focus on her school, where Mayura makes desperate efforts to befriend her. As planned, the mission goes well and Rokuro gains some confidence in his abilities, while Benio makes good friends with Mayura, who also reveals that she is actually the granddaughter of the old man who runs the Seika dormitory. The next day, Arima decides to work on mission Miko making by taking Rokuro and Benio up from the dormitory and taking them to his 10,000 square feet villa and pulling a Mr. Beast move by giving it to them for free. He tells them that they would be living there from here on out, and he wants them to use this as an opportunity to get to know each other better. Obviously, being the perverted maniac he is, he has a trap set up in both their rooms and has them work together to turn it back to normal. Rokuro and Benio work together and overcome this trial and then go out to help Ryoma and the others with defeating some strong impurities. Later that day, they both sit down together and talk about each other's pasts. Benio reveals that she used to have a twin brother who was separated after her parents' death. He became an exorcist as well but died while protecting his friends. He is the one who gave her the hair clips that she wears and they are really important to her. Rokuro explains how he is jealous of her for having parents once as he was abandoned at birth. Exorcists took him in and that's why he became an exorcist and doesn't have any cool lineage like her. After hearing this, Benio encourages him by saying that lineage and all that bogus doesn't matter because he's really strong and brings his mood up. The next day, Mayura comes in to pay them a visit at the new villa. She's jealous of Benio getting to live alone with her childhood friend but then asks Rokuro if he's sure about becoming an exorcist again. She tells him that she doesn't want him to see being depressed and go through the same pain he did 2 years ago. Rokuro replies that he doesn't want that either and has thought about it a lot but thinks that if he can just protect the people around him with the power that he has then it's worth doing it. Hearing this, Mayura becomes mad as she doesn't want him to do such dangerous things and fights back. Benio joins in and explains how she admires him for his decision and desire to grow stronger. Being cornered, Mayura runs out of the house with tears in her eyes but in the rush she forgets her protective charm behind and this leads to a strong impurity attacking her. Meanwhile, her father, Seijin, who is one of the 12 guardians as well as Ryogo and Rokuro's teacher, decides to pay them a visit. He goes to the dormitory to say hello to the old man and reveals that he is there to investigate the impure corruption that they have noticed in the area. Impurity corruption is a phenomenon that happens when humans get filled with too much negative emotions and it transforms them into impure monsters themselves. Back in Magano, Mayura is about to become an impurity's food but Rokuro arrives just in the nick of time to punch it away with his enchanted demon-looking arm and save her. Benio also arrives and they both fight the monster while protecting an unconscious Mayura. But the monster turns out to be too strong for them and they start struggling but just then Seijin arrives and defeats it with one attack. After that, he addresses Rokuro and asks him why he was fighting again and challenges him to show him his power and resolve but Rokuro replies with a half-hearted punch which leads to Seijin confiscating his Black Master talisman. He then addresses Benio and asks her if she knows what happened 2 years ago and explains that Hinatsuki dormitory was where her brother went to after their separation. People think that impurities attacked the dorm and killed everyone but in fact no impurity was involved in that incident. And in reality, Rokuro was the one who killed everyone with that demonic arm. Hearing this, Benio becomes extremely enraged and points her sword at Rokuro but Seijin tells her that there's more to the story and just then a mysterious boy arrives in front of them. This boy turns out to be Benio's supposedly dead brother, Yudo. Looking at him, Rokuro becomes mad and rushes towards him but he casts a spell without any enchantment papers and binds him. With that they continue that on that day, Yudo locked all the kids in the dormitory and conducted forbidden experiments on them in order to turn them into impurities. Rokuro was the only survivor because he killed everyone trying to kill him but the mental stress of seeing his best friend betray him and turn their friends into impurities and then killing them with his own hands to save his life made him give up on his dream of becoming the strongest exorcist or fighting as one ever again. Hearing this, Benio crumbles down and asks his brother if it was all true but he mocks her for being a weak nobody, and tells her to get out of his sight as she couldn't even understand the true feeling of her brother. He then mocks their parents for being useless and weak and that being the reason they died and then diverts his attention back to Rokuro and says that he is there to make an offer and asks if he would be willing to join him and become his right-hand man. Rokuro looks at his stupid face and says that he would rather die and then unleashes the power of his arm forcefully and goes on a rampage to defeat him. But Yudo seems to have the same power in his left arm and he seems to be more in control of it. He plays ping pong with Rokuro by punching him back continuously as he charges at him like the brainless idiot he is. Benio looks at this and decides to stop him as she believes he would die if she doesn't and takes a big hit from him for this. But her effort bears fruit as it brings Rokuro back to his senses and Yudo tells him that he is a failure because he lacks the real resolve to grow stronger, and that he would expect more entertainment from him the next time and then leaves. After that, Seijin takes Mayura and goes back home while Benio apologizes to Rokuro for getting mad at him earlier. After that they both make up and resolve to grow stronger together. Later that night, they both go to see Seijin and ask him to train them but he refuses by saying that they need more than some lazy ambition, and that he's too busy anyways. The next day, Benio's teacher, Subaru, decides to pay her a visit in the new villa. She's one of the 12 guardians as well and comes with her fellow guardian Titara. Benio and Rokuro ask her to train them and she accepts their request. After that she makes them go through a series of absurd tasks like shopping together as a couple, going out to eat, playing hide and seek and even fighting some self-constructed monsters to bring them both together as a couple. She also decorates the villa with some fancy furniture and makes them realize how important teamwork is. After she leaves, they both try to set their routines in the new house, and Rokuro says that he will be the one responsible for cooking dinners as he's sure they would both die if they keep eating Benio's concoctions. Benio says alright and then goes out for her evening jog while thinking about her life before her parents died and how they all used to have dinner together. After running for quite some time, she turns around but senses a strong impurity in the area and decides to purify it. She goes to Magano, but the big impurity explodes on itself, and it turns out a humanoid impurity is the one responsible for it. Benio recognizes this impurity as the one who killed her parents 6 years ago, Kamui. He seems to be looking for the twin star exorcists and asks her if she knew where he could find them, but Benio simply attacks him head on as she sees the murderer of her parents. Kamui simply flicks her back to the ground like an ant and then decides to crush her under his feet, but then Rokuro jumps in with a packed lunchbox and punches him off her with his demonic hand. He tells her that it's unfair for her to go into a fight alone and that he came there because she was late for dinner. On the other hand, Kamui gets up and fixes his broken neck and says that it had been quite some time since a human was able to hurt him and that others would be laughing if they had seen it. Just then, the impurity that Kamui blasted earlier regenerates and he decides to finish it off first. Benio and Rokuro take this chance to get out of Magano and get Benio some first aid. Outside, she tells him everything about Kamui and how he is the impurity that killed her parents and that she must take revenge. She also tells him that Kamui is an S-ranked impurity known as the Besara, who are as strong as if not stronger than the Guardians. Rokuro says that he understands and that he would take revenge for her because she is injured right now. He then goes back to Magano alone and decides to fight Kamui alone. He goes full force, but it barely does anything to the strong impurity. However, his demonic arm manages to inflict some pain on Kamui, and like a violence-hungry masochist, he enjoys it and says that Rokuro has some potential, so he would give him the chance to live. Rokuro fights regardless, so Kamui decides to get a little bit serious by using a cursed enchantment on his legs and kicking Rokuro to oblivion. Just then, Benio joins the fight as well and thanks Rokuro for helping her regain her confidence. She fights with the impurity with newfound strength, but it doesn't prove enough. At this point, Rokuro and Benio join their remaining power into one combo attack which manages to hurt Kamui's leg, but it takes so much energy that the twin star exorcists aren't able to move anymore. Kamui realizes that they are the couple he was looking for and gets excited seeing how much potential they have. He tells them to grow stronger so he can get a lot of spiritual energy after killing them, and takes his leave as we see Arima watching over them from a distance to make sure the hope of exorcists doesn't die in this early battle against a boss level threat. Once the battle is over, he takes them back to the house and makes sure they get some good rest together. After that day, they spend the next few days resting up and enjoying their normal days with the rest of the exorcists from Seika dormitory. They also notice Seijin dropping in from time to talk to the old man, but he never tells them why he is there. Eventually, they find out that they have been finding more and more impurity corruption lately, leading to a lot of humans turning into monsters in Narukami. A few days pass by like this until one day Ryogo gets the news about the death of one of his close friends and expert exorcist, Toru. Toru is the one who introduced Ryogo to his girlfriend Haruka, but the best wingman is now dead. After hearing this news, Benio and Rokuro take a walk outside while talking about Yudo and how they need to stop him, but just then they sense the presence of a strong impurity and head to Magano to deal with it. The impurity turns out to be a corrupted human, which makes it even harder for them, but then Seijin appears on the scene and tells them to get their ass out of there as they are weak and should leave battles like these to adults. Once they leave, he defeats the monster and we find out that it was actually Toru. Later that day, we see Seijin sitting down with the old man at Seika dormitory. The old man tells him that he should let someone else handle this task as it must be really harsh on him to put down the kids he used to teach and train. But Seijin says that no one besides him should be bearing this burden and says that it would be easier on him this way as well. On the other hand, we see Rokuro and Benio sulking over the fact that Seijin called them a burden on the battlefield with no merit. Mayura notices the couple feeling down and decides to help them by cooking dinner for them and consoles her dad as well. However, she still has feelings for Rokuro, and the fact that he's bound to marry Benio makes her feel sad inside, and this emotion turns her into a corrupted monster. This traumatizes the couple as they once again see someone they care about turn into a monster and fight her. Their feelings don't let them do much and Mayura ends up beating them really badly. Just then, Seijin arrives on the scene and says that he will be the one to put her down and tells them to get out of the Magano. Rokuro feels extremely bad as he starts getting flashbacks from his past, but when he touches Benio, they both hear the voice of Mayura asking for help from them. They realize that the power of twin star exorcists might be able to help her and talk to Seijin about it, who gets injured due to being careless in the fight as Mayura is her daughter. With this newfound hope, they all devise a plan around a technique called resonance, which multiplies the power of 2 exorcists with great synchronization rates. Rokuro and Benio manage to pull it off, and the ability purifies Mayura and turns her back to normal, making everyone take a deep sigh of relief, while Rokuro cries that if he had this power 2 years ago he would have been able to save the kids at Hinatsuki Dormitory. Just then, Yudo arrives on the battlefield and asks Rokuro how he liked his present. Rokuro runs at him, but Seijin puts him down and says that they both don't have much spiritual energy left after that resonance purification technique, so he will be the one to take care of the mess of his student, while referring to Yudo. Yudo says that Seijin is an annoyance that he will deal with right there, and that would be his declaration of war against the Exorcists organization. Seijin responds by activating his full power mode, which allows him to channel the power of one of the 12 legendary familiars, Byako. He then rushes straight for Yudo, but Yudo one-shots him with his demonic arm and puts him down. After that, he decides to go attack Rokuro, but Seijin manages to body block the attack and then says that he will protect the Twin Star Guardians no matter what. He thanks the couple for saving his daughter. He also tells Rokuro that he meant to give him something that he left with the old man, so once they are out of Magano he should go and pick it up, and then uses a self-exploding charm and pulls a Vegeta on Yudo. Yudo survives the explosion without a scratch, and Rokuro uses this chance to recover the badly injured and unconscious Seijin. Yudo makes him the offer to join him once again and tells him to come to Hinatsuki Dorm in Magano the next day with his answer, or else he would turn everyone in Seika Dormitory into a corrupted monster, and then leaves. Rokuro lets out a sorrowful cry and then rushes Signy and Mayura to the hospital with Benio. In the hospital, they learn that even if Seijin survives, he won't be able to fight like an exorcist at full power ever again. He also loses one of his arms from the explosion and tries to be as cool as Shanks and Sasuke. Besides that, the old man tells Rokuro that a unit of the 12 Guardians is being formed to eliminate Yudo, and that they would be in Narukami in a few days. Later that night, Rokuro opens the box that Seijin left with the old man and finds a black and red uniform in it. He remembers how Seijin used to wear one like this when he used to teach them, and had mentioned that only the strongest exorcists are allowed to wear it. He told him that he should grow strong enough and prove his worthiness if he wants to wear it, and now he finally gave it to him. This makes Rokuro cry even more, and he decides to go face Yudo the next day and tells Benio about his decision. After that, they both train with all the tools, weapons, and enchantments that they have on hand. They also practice resonance and figure out that it's a 5 to 10 times power increase and has no hard limit on how many times they can use it as long as they have the energy and stamina to do so. We also find out that during the Hinatsuki incident, Rokuro lost his arm when one of the corrupted monsters ate it. After that, he started turning into a corruption as well, but for some reason he was able to control that power and channeled it into his missing arm, which let him exorcise his friends that day, which means his right arm is the power of his corrupted impurity form. Besides that, Rokuro also tests out a red master talisman that came with the uniform that Seijin prepared for him. Once the training arc is finished, they both sleep to recover their stamina, and then head to Magano to confront Yudo at the Hinatsuki Dormitory ruins. Once inside, they begin the fight with Yudo and start getting overwhelmed right from the beginning. They attack him with their signature moves, but Yudo says that it feels like they are throwing rice grains at him. They then use resonance and hit him with a couple of attacks, but Yudo blocks them without any damage as well and calls them desperate ducks. Meanwhile, Kamui watches the battle from a distance, feeling bored. Back on the battlefield, Rokuro uses the Red Master Talisman to enhance his arm and then uses resonance with Benio to get another power boost. With this, he starts overwhelming Yudo for a moment. They unleash a strong attack which sends Yudo flying, but then he reveals his true full impurity form and says that they can't even imagine hurting him in this form, so he uses his human body to make the fights more fun. After that, he turns back into human form and walks towards them, but then falls down coughing some blood. Rokuro thinks this is his chance to finish him and rushes in for an attack, but Yudo says that he was just acting and grabs his arm and prepares to break it. Benio tries to save him, but Yudo breaks her legs and puts her down. Rokuro tries to save her, but Yudo pushes him back and then tells Benio how pathetic she is before breaking the hair clips he gave her long ago. After that, he leaves her on the ground to become a meal for the impurities around them and goes on to make mashed potatoes out of Rokuro. While he is dealing with him, Kamui jumps in and offers help to Benio. He says that he likes giving people with potential chances to survive and grow stronger for his own pleasure, and tells her to choose between dying here or taking his power and getting demonic legs like Rokuro has his arm. Benio struggles with making the decision but accepts it to save Rokuro, and her legs get transformed into white demonic claws brimming with power of a Basara. She tells Kamui that she will one day come at him with these claws that he has given her, and then goes on to beat Yudo. She overwhelms him for a time because Yudo has grown weaker from tanking all the hits from earlier. But then her power runs out midway and Yudo starts beating her once again. As he's about to kill her, Rokuro jumps in and stops him, but Yudo gives him an invitation to the Dead Donut Gang by piercing through his stomach and throwing him back. but Rokuro holds his ground and punches him back with his dying breath, and unleashes his impurity power to max, allowing him to transform into a white demon similar to Yudo for a moment, and the transformation heals his stomach wound as well. After that, he channels the power back into his arm, and we all find out that he has some insane plot armor. Seeing this insane BS, Yudo becomes mad and goes into his max power mode as well, and they both duke it out old school style with their fists, until Rokuro sends him flying like a team rocket with the power of his dead friend's hopes and dreams. Once all this is over, they both open their eyes in the hospital, and luckily none of them bears any severe injuries. The doctors tell Benio to give her legs some rest in the wheelchair before they both get summoned by Arima, who calls them to give information to the remaining guardians about their battle with Yudo. He also tells them that they would be punished for fighting him alone and not waiting for the guardians, but Benio argues back by saying that they were under a threat and did it to protect their friends at the Seika dormitory. Arima says that it's fine, but they are now prohibited from doing anything dangerous because as the twin star exorcists, their job is to get married and give birth to the Miko so they don't have to waste time in training and get stronger and all that nonsense. This makes Rokuro really angry, and he says that he will do it, but they must allow him to put down Yudo with his own hands, and Arima agrees. He tells them that according to a recent oracle that he had, a great calamity is headed their way, but the guardians would be able to hold it back for a couple years, and that's how long they have to train and grow stronger than everyone present there. Rokuro agrees alongside Benio, and they both go back. After that, they both spend the next few days resting up and enjoying a festival, and Rokuro gives Benio a pair of hair clips to replace the ones she lost. On the other hand, we see Meira ask her dad to train her so she can become an exorcist as well and help her friends. Time for a time skip. 2 years later, Rokuro has become quite cool and popular in his school. Benio is as amazing as ever, and they both have grown significantly as exorcists. Meira has also become an exorcist now and is able to perform basic enchantments and spells, and they all protect Narukami Island as the Seika dormitory exorcists alongside a retired Seijin. As prophesied, the impurities have also grown stronger, and a Basara is planning to raid the real world with a bunch of them. We see Rokuro and Benio go about their mission with the other exorcists, but one day they notice a strange light in Magano, and Rokuro finds a little girl in the area. They take her back to the dorm and name her Sae, and Rokuro adopts her as his daughter for the time being as she seems fond of him for some reason. Seijin and the old man say that they need to be careful as it's a rare occurrence to find a happy little girl in Magano, thinking back on how they found Rokuro in the same place when he was a baby. They go about their days as a family, but one day they notice the Magano mist appearing in the town, and suddenly massive impurities appear in the real world. Rokuro and Benio purify them while Seijin explains that a dragon spot has appeared, and it's like a massive rift in the barrier that separates Magano from the real world. Back in the Exorcist's headquarters, we find out that a Basara by the name of Kuranashi is behind all this as the Guardians prepare to deal with him. We also see another Basara named Suzu is involved in this mess, but she seems more interested in unique exorcists than this march in the real world. She helps Rokuro's group by eliminating a bunch of weak impurities and says that she would be interested in meeting them some other time and lets them patch up the dragon spot. At first they use the traditional technique to patch it up, but they require more energy to do it. Rokuro and Benio use resonance, and it helps them gather enough energy to close the spot down and return everything to normal. Seijin says that other towns must be suffering from these attacks, and so the twin star exorcists must go and patch up these holes as well. The next day, Rokuro and Benio leave Narukami alongside Sae and head towards Minami Chuo City, who have sent them a request to close a dragon spot. They let Benio's familiar take over a wagon they found in the villa's basement and use that as their transportation. On this mission, they encounter one of the Basaras named Moro, who gives them a little beating before they manage to seal the dragon spot thanks to Sae coming in clutch by delivering a sealing talisman to them during the battle. On their next mission, they head towards an amusement park which has an impurity that's about to turn into a Basara. The lion impurity seems to have some human emotions still intact, and it wants to look at something beautiful. Once they get near the amusement park, Sae wanders inside and ends up making friends with the impurity. She makes a promise to not hurt any humans or fight them and conveys this sentiment to Rokuro and Benio as well. While they all try to show something beautiful to it, two guardians arrive on the spot by turning up all the lights in the amusement park and destroying the lion impurity, but in its final moments it manages to look at the beautiful lights and goes out without any regrets. After that, the guardians, Miku and Sakura, patch the dragon spot and confront the twin star exorcists, and tell them that they should take this mission more seriously as people's lives depend on it. After that, their next destination turns out to be Hi, where they meet the famous Japanese baseball player, Kawase. Their opponent is a Basara named Yamato, while two guardians named Narumi and Cordelia join them on this mission. The guardians tell the twin star exorcists to work on sealing the dragon spot while they will hold Yamato back. The plan goes well, and they manage to drive the impurities out of the town, but Yamato makes it out alive as well. Meanwhile, the Basara who's behind the dragon spots, Kuranashi, heads to Magano and talks to the twin Basara. Chijua and Mamachi and tells them about the twin star exorcists and how he thinks they would prove to be good entertainment for them. Also, they need to get rid of them for the success of their plan. The Basara pair agrees and wait for the exorcists to arrive. On the other hand, Rokuro and Benio head for the next dragon spot and somehow end up in Magano, which is connected to the real world through a dragon spot inside a tunnel. Here they confront the Basara twins, who prove to be far superior to them in terms of raw strength and teamwork. Things look pretty bad for the twin star exorcists when they both get tied in the Basara's sticky string, but Sae jumps in and protects them both by creating a barrier with her powers. She doesn't know how she did it, but this gives the guardians in the area time to arrive on the battlefield. They introduce themselves as Arata, Kengo, and Kenkuro and say that they came there following Kuranashi's trail. They then use a gate charm and teleport everyone back to the real world where impurity levels are lower and say that this will significantly weaken the Basara. Rokuro and Benio say that they would like to fight them and ask the guardians to deal with the dragon spot. As expected, the Basara are weaker in the real world and they manage to overpower them significantly. During their last assault, they fatally injure Mamachi, who protects his brother by tanking the attack himself and joins the Dead Donut Gang. Just then, Kuranashi opens up some portals on the battlefield and takes the twins with him and runs away. The Basara close the dragon spot and then follow behind the Basara while Rokuro and Benio confront Sae and ask how she managed to use that power. She says that she has no idea but has a feeling that they should go to Kyoto, where the exorcist headquarters is located, and the couple agrees to it. On the other hand, Kuranashi kills Mamachi and absorbs his power. He then tricks Chijua into thinking that the exorcist did that and gives him his brother's power and tells him to seek revenge. While the twin star exorcists move towards Kyoto, Ikaruga joins Seika dormitory on Arima's orders as the next dragon spot is revealed to be at Narukami. While he's there, he trains Mayura and we also see them both develop slight feelings for each other. Seijin also helps them, but his powers seem to be greatly reduced. Ikaruga takes care of the impurity and the dragon spot on his own and showcases his spirit familiar weapon Suzaku, which lets him fly and shoot empowered blades at his enemies. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Benio head towards Kyoto alongside Sae. On their way, they receive a call from Seijin, who informs them about a massive dragon spot that was located near their current location and asks them to patch it up before moving on. They agree and head towards it but get ambushed by a Basara as soon as they reach there. The Basara introduces itself as Kanasa and says that it is one of the strongest Basara and they stand no chance against him. He shoots at them from afar and lets them come close with the hope of defeating him in close combat. But once they do, he reveals that he's much stronger in close-range combat, but used guns as a welcome for new guests, otherwise they would die instantly if he were to use his full power right from the get-go. Rokuro tells him to stop talking and tries to punch him, but he tanks his attacks like a Giga Chad and says their attacks are akin to flies buzzing around him. After that, he shows them the difference in their power levels by utterly destroying their hope and making them shake in fear. It looks like it will be the end for them, but Sae protects them once again. However, this time plot armor doesn't come in as the Basara kicks them both aside and decides to kidnap Sae, but then he gets shot from the side and falls back. He looks up and we see the strongest among the 12 guardians named Tenma arrive on the scene. He plays with the Basara and then cuts him in half with a dull blade and says that he was a total bore. After that, he looks up at the massive dragon spot and realizes that he forgot his talisman. Being the Giga Chat he is, he doesn't care and simply tells the dragon spot to close, and it closes up due to his immense spiritual energy. After that, he goes to Kyoto with the twin star exorcists and part ways once they reach the city. Once there, Benio receives a call from Arima, who tells them that they finally found the reason behind the sudden appearance of these dragon spots and says that he wants them to come to the headquarters with Sae. On the other hand, we find out that there is a massive tree under the exorcists' headquarters, which was created by the originator of all exorcists named Abe no Seimei. The tree acts as a barrier that separates Magano from the real world, and it turns out Kuranishi managed to slip in somehow and broke one of the branches of the tree, which weakened the barrier and is the cause of these dragon spots appearing all over the country. There are two ways to fix it, one being the heavenly blue earth ritual, which would require a massive amount of spiritual energy, and the other method would be to bring the cut branch back and let it attach to the tree. Arima prepares for the ritual just in case and tells all the guardians to gather in Kyoto. Once his attendant goes out to deliver the message to the guardians, Kuranashi appears from Arima's shadow and attacks him. Arima psychs him by using paper clone jutsu, and then chances after him in Magano. They have a tough battle and Arima manages to damage the Basara's mask, which allows him to sneak inside the exorcist's barrier, but doing so makes him fall under Kuranashi's trap, where he seals him. Back in the real world, the twin star exorcists go to the headquarters and Sae leads them to the tree underground. There they meet Subaru and Tatara, who reveal that Sae is the broken branch of the tree. Rokuro and Benio say that they won't let her be sacrificed in that way, and Subaru says that if Sae doesn't come willingly, it would make the barrier weaker, so they would have to do the ritual anyway and prepare to do that. She also says that they would need their help as Seijin has retired and they are short on one person. The ritual requires 6 people to channel their energy, but at the same time impurities would be attacking them. That's why they have assigned 1 guardian to each ritual performer for their protection. Rokuro and Benio would be protecting Tenma, and with that the plan begins. With Erima gone, Kuranashi closes all the dragon spot and gathers their energy to open 1 gigantic dragon spot in Kyoto. The guardians begin the ritual, but even with all their powers combined, it proves insufficient to close it. Rokuro and Benio try to close it with their resonance as well, but exhaust all their energy without making a dent. Sae looks at all this and decides to return to the tree and protects everyone by repairing the barrier in this way. After this incident, Rokuro and Benio go back to Narukami and spend a few days recovering from this journey. Rokuro also thinks about how he felt similar to Sae when he found her in Magano, and goes to Seijin and asks him about his parents and how the exorcists found him. Seijin reveals that they found him in Magano 10 years ago and have no clue where he came from. He's not a branch of the tree like Sae, and is fully human, but they have no other clue about his origin. Hearing this, Rokuro goes to Magano with Benio in hopes of finding more about himself, but it doesn't get them anywhere. On the other hand, Erima's attendant takes up the position of acting head of exorcists, and bears an oracle that Erima has died. He gathers the 12 guardians and prepares a squad dedicated to taking revenge for Erima and killing Kuranashi. However, they all find it really hard to believe that Erima lost to some Basara given how strong he actually is. After the meeting, the attendant tells Ikaruga to go to Narukami and tells him to protect the twin star exorcists until they deal with Kuranashi. Meanwhile, all the guardians continue looking for Kuranashi, who reveals his true plan to Moro. He says that the stupid exorcists think that now that dragon spots are gone they don't need to worry about us anymore, but in reality that was just the phase 1 of his plan. The purpose of the dragon spots was for all impurities to grow stronger by feeding on strong exorcists and their spiritual energy. Besides that, all the exorcists have been purifying and curing normal people of their excessive impurities by absorbing it. With so much negative energy getting concentrated in them in such a short period of time, they would soon turn into puppets for them, and that's when they will eradicate all the exorcists. He then tells Moro to go and feed on these exorcists and grow much stronger for the future battles to come. On the other hand, Subaru and Tatara get a clue on Kuranshi's trail, while Miku and Sakura encounter Moro in Magano while looking for her boss. It turns out they have some bad history with Moro, who seems to have killed Sakura's father, who used to be Miku's close friend. Seeing her, Sakura immediately jumps with her weapon and shouts that she will avenge her father. Being hot-headed, she loses her composure and unleashes a mindless barrage of attacks at Moro, but she takes advantage of her insanity and overwhelms her with raw power. She grows stronger by becoming a total macho girl, and then beats her into a building. Miku tells Sakura to calm down and then fights Moro using her stuffed toy charms, which contain the power of different elements. She overwhelms her in the start, but Moro unleashes an attack towards Sakura, who's down, which makes Miku divert her attention towards her. Moro then uses this chance to push her to the ground and beat her up, but Miku uses an ability and makes a strategic escape with Sakura. After resting for a while, they both decide to finish Moro with a cool head, and Miku decides to go out first to confront the Basara. She unleashes her special technique and gets into a giant stuffed toy and starts beating Moro, but she transforms into a giant as well and tears her apart. While she's busy dealing with her, Sakura jumps in and cuts her down. After that, they do a combo attack using stuffed toy blasts, and Sakura's slashing attack to exorcise Moro for good and taking revenge for Sakura's father. Once the battle is over, they go back to the real world while Kuranashi goes to check on Moro and promises to take revenge for her. Back in the real world, Rokuro and Benio research the history of exorcists in hopes of learning something about Rokuro's origins. The next day, Rokuro gets his ass beat by Seijin during training, but Benio comes in and cheers him up with some words of encouragement. At the same time, Mayura walks in and says that it's time to go to the school together, but misunderstands the whole situation and thinks they were kissing. This brings the surprised face meme out of her before Rokuro clears the misunderstanding. After that, they all go to the school and find out that Ikaruga has joined them as a transfer student, and he reveals his objectives to them as their bodyguard. On the other hand, we see Kuranashi putting his plan into action as exorcists from around the country walk into Magano in a hypnotic daze. A few days later, we see Rokuro working on creating a new move for himself that he can use to project multiple people on the battlefield. After his training, he goes to Ikaruga and bugs him about sparing with him, but the guardian tells him to stop bothering. Just then, they notice the whole school getting enveloped by an impure mist, and we see the Basara, Chijua, arrive at the location. Rokuro and the others wander around the school and encounter him in the school's gymnasium, but he seems to be much stronger than the last time they met him. It turns out Kuranashi helped empower him by using a special talisman enchantment that he had the hypnotized exorcists made for him. The enchantments allow Chijua to stay linked to Magano while being in the real world and not lose any power. Furthermore, he also has his dead brother's energy, which makes him twice as strong as their last encounter. As expected, he goes on to wipe the gymnasium like janitor with the twin star exorcist's asses and binds them down with his special string, but then Ikaruga arrives on the scene and starts fighting him instead as their bodyguard. He pushes him back quite a bit, but the Besara tricks him by using puppet clone jutsu and binds his body down with special magical strings. He then reveals that he has all the students in the building under his control and prepares to kill them, but Rokuro and the other exorcists attack him and use a smoke bomb to run away with Ikaruga. Once in safety, Mayura uses an exorcising enchantment to dispel the strings binding Ikaruga. Once his life is out of danger, they all devise a plan around him and decide to take the Besara out. Benio and Mayura try to hold all the students back while Rokuro and Ikaruga go on to face Chijuwa. Rokuro plays the supportive role and uses his demonic arm to hold Chijuwa in place while letting Ikaruga finish him off with his ultimate enchantment transformation. The plan works out, but Ikaruga fails to one-shot the Besara. His ultimate form costs a lot of energy and he seems to be running out of time, but then Rokuro uses Talk no Jutsu and lets him beat the Besara to a pulp. As he's about to die, Chijuwa reveals his puppets full of spiritual energy. He says that he will go kaboom and blow them all up with him, but Rokuro comes in clutch with his new move, which allows him to hit multiple enemies with a single attack. He uses it to dispatch all the puppets at once and delivers the final blow to the Besara, finishing him off for good this time. While Ikaruga and the others are busy with Chijuwa, Kuranashi begins his plan and begins a curse ritual of unleashing negative energy around Narukami. The Guardians take note of this and try to stop it using a ritual of their own, but they get ambushed by Yamato and his minions who disturb the ritual, and Kuranashi manages to activate the spell. As it takes effect, the whole country starts shaking immensely, and huge cracks start forming on the ground. Then a massive piece of land cracks itself away from the mainland and starts flying in the air over Narukami. On the other hand, the exorcists find out that Kuranashi used the exorcists he kidnapped to amplify the energy of the impurities in the area, and used the negative emotions from the Dragon Spot event to activate this spell. We find out that the entire town of Narukami was floating in the sky, and Seijin reveals that 600 years ago a similar incident happened to some villages, and the Besara responsible for that was none other than Kuranashi. Meanwhile, Rokuro and Benio make their way towards the dorm to check up on their friends, but they get confronted by Kuranashi himself on their way. He reveals his face and shows that both his eyes look normal. He then explains that the stronger impurities grow the closer they look like humans, and then says that he is going to play a game with them. He then activates his spell to its full effect and pulls a Madara Uchiha on them by summoning a giant tree-like impurity out of the ground with multiple eyes and tentacles that seek spiritual power and suck their victims dry until they are dead like cannon fodder. He then tells them that they won't be able to defeat this impurity unless they purify its bulb, which resides underground and stores all of its spiritual power. Rokuro asks him why he would tell them something like this, but he says that it won't be a fun game if they don't know how to play, and then says that according to his estimation, they have less than 2 hours before the tentacles suck every single person on the floating island of their life energy. This makes the couple really mad and they try to attack him, but he simply blocks it with his immense cursed energy and walks back to Magano. After this, Rokuro and Benio go to the dorm and inform everyone about their encounter and devise a plan around Seijin and Mayura going underground to purify the bulb, while the twin star exorcists and the others would attack the monster from outside and make it exhaust its energy that way. They begin the plan, but once Seijin and Mayura are near the bulb, the monster starts attacking them with multiple tentacles, but Seijin uses every bit of his spiritual power to fight back. He starts using the power of Byakko, but it strains his damaged body a lot, and Mayura sees how her father is struggling. She continues to fight alongside him in order to purify the bulb, but it doesn't work. Just then, Kuranashi appears there and says that he wasn't expecting them to be the ones attacking the bulb. He uses his command over the giant tree monster and tells it to bring one of the hostages that he has taken under him during this attack. It turns out to be Mayura's mother, which makes both of them really angry. Seijin calls him a bastard and tries to attack him from behind, but Kuranashi blocks it and throws it back and commends his assassination background. It turns out Seijin was the leader of Anbu after Itachi left the village, and he was actually the one who killed all the members of his own clan, much like the notorious Uchiha. He then reveals that Seijin also killed Mayura's uncle, and we learn that that's how he met Mayura's mother while being on a mission to kill her brother. He did it for duty, as her brother had already been corrupted and was going to become a monster, and Yukari forgave him and went on to become his wife. After all this, Seini looks at Kuranashi and says that he will be the one to save Yukari, and he uses all the power he has left in him to summon Byakko's power to go into his enchanted transformation. He manages to land a hit on the Bisara, but it proves useless as he pulls an Abido on him and lets the attack pass right through him. Mayura decides to step up her game and fights to defend her parents, but it proves useless. However, Seinen notices that Byakko is responding to his daughter's energy and asks it to lend her his power even if it's this once, and gives Mayura the talisman. Byakko talks to Mayura and says that his power comes from the desire to protect those one loves, and then resonates with her, which allows her to fight Kuranashi on a more equal footing. She manages to purify the bulb during their fight, and Kuranashi makes his escape to further his main plan. Outside, Rokuro and Benio work together to fight the giant tree monster alongside other guardians. The couple manage to destroy the tree's core once they notice that it has stopped regenerating thanks to its bulb getting destroyed. After this, the whole flying city starts falling down, but the guardians manage to clear all the impurities in the area to begin their own ritual, which allows them to channel their spiritual energy in a way that it guides the falling island to get back into the place it broke off from, thus saving everyone from a crash landing. Once everything goes back to normal, it looks like the guardians have won, but then Kuranashi activates the same spell he used against Arima and traps all the weakened guardians into a dark realm. After that, Kuranashi goes to meet the twin star exorcists and tricks them into following him into Magano, where he has all the guardians tied up. They all enter a hall and see the guardians getting their power sucked out by massive impurity tree roots. Rokuro tries to save them, but touching the roots sucks his power out as well, and Kuranashi says that all of this was his plan that he has been working on for over 12 years. He then captures Rokuro and Benio and lets them watch helplessly as he sucks out all the power from the remaining guardians and makes it his own, transforming into a cheap copy of Aizen from Bleach. He then lets the twin star exorcists down and tells them to run away if they want, but they decide to attack him like the idiots. They are not comprehending the fact that he was beating their ass before he transformed as well, and now he has the power of all the exorcists that he kidnapped as well as the 12 guardians in him. As expected, he starts whipping the floor with their asses, but then Tatara blasts out of his bindings and reveals his true form. It turns out Tatara is not a human but a familiar spirit, and he has been fighting Kuranashi for the past 600 years now. Tatara fights the Basara with full force, but Kuranashi is now able to use all the abilities of all the guardians except his, and the power gap proves to be just too great. Seeing this, Tatara decides to use his ultimate move, Hug M and Blow M, and curses Kuranashi with the curse of deterioration with his dying breath. Kuranashi says that it was a nasty move, but then walks to Yudo's that he has also dug out from the roots of Aim no Mihashira. He says that he will simply absorb him, which would enable him to bypass the curse, but it works against him as Yudo manages to take over. He absorbs Kuranashi instead alongside all the power and abilities that he has stolen, and then greets Rokuro with his iconic evil smile. He then has the couple follow him to the deepest parts of the creation where Magano and the real world meet on the barrier. Once there, he traps Benio in a barrier and plays ragdoll beat up with her in order to make Rokuro mad. He explains that for 2 years when he was part of the tree, he trained his mind and managed to sync his consciousness with the person who planted that tree, Abe no Seimei. He then shows them his comatose body and says that he absorbed his power as well and is now truly the strongest being in the both worlds. After that, he tells Rokuro that he is actually an impurity, and that he found that out after absorbing Abe no Seimei's consciousness, and then proceeds to beat Benio to the point of unconsciousness, reminding Rokuro of the dormitory incident, making him enraged. At this point, Rokuro snaps and lets out all of his primal rage. He manages to even hurt Yudo in this state and continues to transform into his bright and pure form. But just then Arima appears from a portal and puts him to sleep. He then distracts Yudo with a lame binding spell and uses that time to dispel the barrier around Benio using his family's special barrier dispelling technique. After that, he uses his familiars to push him back before retrieving the twin star exorcists and retreating back to the real world. Back in the real world, Benio takes quite some days to recover due to taking so much beating in the last battle, while Rokuro recovers relatively quickly. On the other hand, Arima talks to Seijin and the old man and reveals that he actually used Kuranashi to kill him so he could perform the ritual of Pursuit of Ages. Thanks to him, he managed to separate his soul from his body and traveled back 1,000 years to the time of Abe no Seimei. There he learned why he created Magano and the Exorcists group and Guardians, and learned the true nature of impurities and humans. It turns out there are two energies in this world: the yin energy, which destroys everything, and the yang energy, which creates everything, and the world needs a balance of both to exist in harmony. Abe no Seimei found out that the yin energy stemmed from negative emotions of people, and it was growing to a point where it was destroying the real world through curses and impurities. This is why he created Magano, but the yin energy turned out to be far more than his expectations, and it kept growing still. To combat that, he created the 12 familiars from the yang energy and granted their powers to people who would become the 12 guardians. After that, he formed the exorcists group around them with the purpose to maintain this harmony by purifying the impurities that cross over to this world. After that, he goes to talk to Rokuro and talks to him about his origins. He explains that Abe no Seimei created another being from the yin energy with the purpose to kill all humanity in the case that they don't reform and decide to take this world to ruins, and named it the King of Cataclysm, and Rokuro is that king. He then tells Rokuro that he should give birth to Miko, would allow his yin energy to mix with the yang energy of Benio, and that should neutralize his position as the King of Cataclysm. Hearing this, Rokuro says that he understands the position they are in, but he can never let Benio marry a monster like him, and runs away. Later on, he meets Yudo outside, who says that he was growing bored of waiting for them and would destroy the world if they don't hurry up. Rokuro then decides to break up with Benio in hopes of pushing her away, and protecting her in this way, and then goes to fight Yudo all alone. However, this all happens when Benio is about to confess true love for Rokuro, but she gets a breakup thrown at her face, and she is left there with some harsh words from Rokuro, who walks away saying she was a burden in their last fight. After leaving Benio behind, Rokuro goes to the Chamber of Darkness to meet Yudo, and immediately starts fighting him by enchanting his arm. They both exchange some attacks, but Yudo doesn't take any damage and soon starts overwhelming him. During their fight, Rokuro asks him why he was doing all this and what even was his objective. Yudo explains that since childhood he was utterly bored of his useless family and loudmouth of a teacher. He never fancied about making friends, but for some reason Rokuro always attracted, and after learning about everything from Abe no Seimei, he understood his true purpose, and it was to be gay. Okay, that was a joke, but he says that his purpose was to fight Rokuro. In reality, Abe no Seimei always planned for this world to end, and that's why he created Rokuro and then started fighting him again. He says that he would need him to get serious or else it wouldn't be fun, and transforms into his demonic form. On the other hand, Rokuro reveals that he had Arima place a seal on his heart that would stop it in case he goes berserk and becomes the king of Cataclysm. With that safety net, he lets out as much of his power as he can without losing consciousness and transforms into his white impurity form. With this, the both titans start fighting, and Rokuro turns out to be stronger than Yudo. On the other hand, we see Arima confront his attendant, who turns out to be the reincarnation of Abe no Seimei. It was all according to his plan, as he wanted to destroy this world and create a new world without any evil. When he planted the barrier tree, he programmed it in such a way that all the negative energy would get concentrated and give birth to the king of Cataclysm named Rokuro. On the other hand, the yang energy would gather in Benio's family and would give birth to the girl with concentrated yang energy. However, fate played its cards and gave birth to twins instead of Benio alone, and to counterbalance her yang energy, her brother became the incarnation of an equal yin energy. This made him a poor copy of Rokuro, and after syncing with his body, he must have realized this fact and wants to fight Rokuro to prove his worthiness. Back in the Magano, Rokuro manages to defeat Yudo and walks away, saying he would lose all his spiritual energy soon. Yudo looks at him and says that he would destroy all his friends before that happens, and makes him get angry beyond limit, making him lose control and transforming into the king of Cataclysm before putting him down once and for all by turning him into a donut. And that's when we get to see these chiseled buns of the king fated to destroy everything. After defeating Sam Sulek and turning into the king of chiseled buns, Rokuro stands up and starts absorbing spiritual energy from all beta males and weak losers from around the globe, turning them into stone statues like the 12 guardians. Abe no Seimei stands with it and reveals that his real purpose right now is to resurrect his real body, and for that he needs all the yin energy from Rokuro alongside that of billions of people that he would absorb energy from. After that, he would crystallize it all and join with Benio to obtain all of her yang energy as well. With this, he will be able to resurrect in his original body and create a new world where evil and negative emotions don't exist and people only feel happiness. Meanwhile, Benio wakes up and rushes towards the giant king of chiseled buns and asks it to give Rokuro back. Abe no Seimei flies down and explains his plan to her and says that combining with her actually means marrying and doing it with her, and that if she promises to come with him, he would return Rokuro to his original body. He further explains that that concentration of yin and yang energy wasn't meant to give birth to humans like Rokuro and her, but fate decided it to be like this, and so he apologizes for causing them this grief. He even shows her his ideal world, but she says that she doesn't want to live in a whitewashed world of emotionless robots, but decides to go with him if he keeps his promise of returning Rokuro. With that, the ritual of his resurrection begins while Rokuro wakes up in a temple beside Arima. Arima explains everything to him and he decides to head towards the giant tree in the center of the city alongside his friends to save Benio. On their way, they all help him with their enchantments and sacrifices and push him towards the top of the tree, as he is now their only hope. Arima also helps by giving Rokuro all of his remaining spiritual energy and power-boosting enchantments. With all of their help, Rokuro makes it to the top where he finds Benio sealed inside a crystal. He tries to break her out of there by using a barrier-destroying enchantment he received from Arima, but it does nothing. However, he still has a plan up his sleeve. He takes out a hair clip that Benio left behind for him. It turns out she suspected that she might get sealed inside a crystal after seeing Abe no Seimei's real body being sealed inside a similar one. To make the crystal seal weaker, she decided to link both of her hair clips with a thread of spiritual energy and left one clip behind in hopes of Rokuro coming to save her. With the thread linking the two clips, the crystal that formed around her had a tiny hole in it the length of the thread, but it was more than enough for Rokuro to focus all of his energy there and break it out. Meanwhile, Arima heads to the midsection of Abe no Mihashira where Abe no Seimei is standing. He says that he is there to stop him from getting in Rokuro's way, but Seimei says that he doesn't even need to bother with that because there's nothing he can do even if he breaks her out. He then looks at Arima and says that he has barely any spell power left and how he thinks he will manage to stop him from doing anything. Arima tries to act big and summons a massive dragon with all he has got, but Seimei uses the same technique and summons an even stronger dragon to fight him. He destroys his dragon and then starts beating Arima up, but then Kamui jumps in from nowhere and says that he came there smelling someone strong. After that, they both start fighting Seimei and his dragon, but get their ass kicked as expected. After dealing with them, Seimei heads to the top of the tree and meets Rokurou and Benio. He explains that he already took Benio's yang energy while she was in the crystal because he suspected that she would rebel against him, and with all of the preparations made, he can now activate the technique which would bring about the birth of the new world. The first stage of the spell was extraction of all yin energy from people, and in the second phase he would coat all the remaining humans with yang energy, thus creating a world with people with only strong yang energy. Rokurou and Benio try to stop the second stage by striking the core of the tree with their spiritual energy using resonance, but it proves insignificant. They talk to Seimei about his views about the world, and he says that he did place his hope in humanity, but they failed him. He waited 1,000 years for them to shed negativity and be more positive, but the negativity only kept growing, and the fact that Rokurou woke up as the king of Cataclysm is proof of that. After that, he puts Rokurou and Benio into sleep with an attack and tells them to give up because there's nothing they can do to stop this. While unconscious, Sae syncs up with their consciousness and lets them hear the voice of everyone who got their spiritual energy stolen, including the 12 guardians. They all use talk no jutsu and motivational lecture technique to pump them up and make them get back up on their feet and stop this spell from activating. The twin star exorcists get up and this time resonates with the aim no Mihashira and the spiritual energy of everyone inside it. Doing this allows them to reverse the spell and return all the stolen yin and yang energy to their original owners. Seimei looks at this result and laughs and says that this must be the will of the heavens and that he would wait another 1,000 years and will put his faith in humanity. Rokurou and Benio say that they would push this world to positivity as well so he doesn't have to destroy it again in a millennia, and tells him goodbye. With this, the battle to save their world from destruction ends for the exorcists, and everyone gets a happy ending for the time being. After some days, we see Ryogo and his girlfriend, Haruka, marry each other, and the twin star exorcists attend the wedding alongside all of their other friends. In the end, Rokurou confesses his feelings for Benio as well, and they both kiss each other, and this is how season 1 of Twin Star Exorcists comes to an end.